We all know and love The Simpsons, as it's not only an iconic cartoon, but one of the most iconic television shows of all time.
I had no idea, for you see, I have been on Mars for the last decade, in a cave.
And it's not just people who speak English who get to enjoy the show. Did you know that the show actually gets dubbed over all around the world? And people in multiple countries, speaking multiple languages, love it just the same?
Find me a 90-year-old projector and I'll prove it to you.
With so many different languages and cultures, there's bound to be some parts that just don't feel right to international audiences. That's why it's not just language that's changed in these dubs, but also character names, references, and places. Some scenes are even cut or changed to make them more appropriate for different countries. But we're so accustomed to the show that we know and love that it can feel strange to see it any other way. In this video, we're going to dive into 10 things about The Simpsons that were changed in other countries. The Simpsons was finally given an Arabic translation in 2005, but a lot had to be changed in order to make the show more appropriate for a Middle Eastern audience. For one, the show's name was translated to Al-Shamshun, and all references to alcohol like Duff Beer and Moe's Tavern were removed or changed. Instead, Homer drinks cans of soda rather than cans of beer. Any mention of Moe's Tavern by name or scenes of Homer and his friends all drinking together are completely cut out. Yeah, so does that mean that they explain away Homer's drunken behavior as the effects of a sugar rush? References to pork are also gone from the show, so you won't see Homer talking about or eating bacon and hot dogs. Instead, he scarfs down beef sausages, and any mention of him snacking on pork products is simply removed. And this might seem weird to an English audience, but say goodbye to Homer's signature donuts. Instead, his snack of choice is kak, which is the Arabic word for cake. Another major modification was made to The Simpsons' religion. Instead of going to church together as a family, they all attend a mosque. The Arabic version of The Simpsons didn't just change the name of the show and The Simpsons' last name, they also changed the name for the entire town of Springfield. Instead, The Simpsons' hometown is called Rabia, which is the Arabic word for spring. Springfield is also changed to look more Arabic, with a majority Arab population, so that the town is more familiar for a Middle Eastern audience. The Simpsons are also given more typical Arabic first names to go with their new Shamshun surname. Homer, Marge, and Bart are renamed Omar, Mona, and Abar, respectively, which actually sounds pretty accurate to us. But even with all these changes, The Simpsons didn't fare so well in the Middle East, and only 34 of 52 adapted episodes of Al-Shamshun ended up being aired before it was pulled from networks. But scenes of Homer and his soda addiction will thankfully live on.
No!
Homer's iconic catchphrase is one of the most quoted lines from the show, probably thanks in equal part to it being both a classic and just one word. It's hard to imagine him saying anything else, but for some international audiences, the "don't" also gets a translation. In France, Homer's word of choice is toe. In 2007, creator Matt Groening explained the change while on Late Night with Conan O'Brien. The translation wasn't done because it sounds better in French. The change was actually the result of the voice actor misreading the line. But it worked so well with the translation that they decided to ultimately keep the new catchphrase for all future episodes. Don't isn't the only classic catchphrase that got a makeover in France. Bart's "Eat My Shorts" becomes "Va te faire shampouiner," which directly translates to "go shampoo yourself." That sounds kind of weird at first, but the English equivalent would be something like "go to hell." Bart would definitely get detention for saying that in the middle of class. Plus, when Homer tries to throttle Bart, his catchphrase, "Why, you little," becomes "espèce de sale petit," which means something like "you dirty little." In both versions, you can really hear his frustration. Another change comes in the form of character names, most particularly Sideshow Bob and Sideshow Mel. Instead, they're known as Tahiti Bob and Tahiti Mel, which sound like pretty fun nicknames to us. There's another French translation of The Simpsons, but it's French-Canadian instead of French-French. While both versions share the chalkboard gag translation that appears on screen during the opening credits, the Quebec version has some different translations for the characters' names. For example, the family's dog, Santa's little helper, is called Le Petit René au Nez Rouge, which translates to Little Red-Nosed Reindeer, and is what the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is called in Quebec. In France, the dog's name is Petit Papa Noël, a French Christmas song that translates to Little Father Christmas in English. Another change the Quebecois version makes is the references. The location and setting in the United States stays the same, but TV shows and news events are sometimes changed to be more relatable to a Quebec audience. For example, a reference to Homer watching CSI Miami was changed to Fortier, a similar Quebecois television show.
What you're saying is so understandable.
In other countries, characters' accents are changed so that they make sense with the translated language. In France, all the characters speak standard proper French, with the exception of a few minorities. For example, Apu is given a Portuguese accent, and for some reason Carl, who has no accent in the English version, speaks affected French. Some characters are even given an accent just because it makes sense with their name. Kirk Van Houten is given a Brussels accent because Van Houten is a typical Belgian last name. In Quebec, people often used a more relaxed French with a lot of slang, so only the town's elite, like Principal Skinner and Reverend Lovejoy, speak with proper French accents, while most other town folk have a strong Quebec accent. Minority characters also have different accents, like Carl, who speaks with an African or Caribbean inflection. And if you're wondering how translated shows handle characters speaking other languages that are important to the story, then Quebec can give you an example. When Homer visits Canada, the roles of Anglophones and Francophones are reversed, so there's a stereotypical English Canadian speaking French and a stereotypical French Canadian speaking English. It sounds a little confusing, but hey, it works for them. The Italian version of The Simpsons has some pretty interesting catchphrases. While Homer's dope remains the same in Italian, Bart's ay caramba becomes ice cacchio, or what the hell in English. Eat My Shorts becomes si usati il casino, which literally translates to suck your sock. It sounds hilarious at first listen, but I guess sucking a sock isn't really that different from eating shorts. When Homer tries to throttle Bart in Italian, his phrase, "why you little," becomes brutto baccarospo, or you ugly toad roach. It's definitely a creative change.
Lo faccio vedere io lo scimmione calvo.
And we kinda wanna hear Homer call Bart a toad roach in the English version. But if you think that's the best translation, then you need to hear Homer's Italian laugh and try not to laugh along.
Censored!
See? Told ya. The Spanish dub of The Simpsons is pretty different in Spain and Latin America. While Spain tends to keep all the proper names as is, Latin America tends to translate as much as possible.
Example.
In Hispanic America, Homer is translated as Homero Simpson. Other translations in Latin America include Barney Gumble as Barney Gomez, Ralph Wiggum as Rafa Gogori, Chief Wiggum as Jefe Gogori, Reverend Lovejoy as Reverendo Alegria, and Mayor Diamond Joe Quimby as Alcalde Diamante. But the best name change goes to Itchy and Scratchy, who are Tommy and Dally for Hispanic America, but Rasca and Pica for Spain, which literally translates to it itches and it scratches. We might just keep referring to the pair as Rasca and Pica from now on because these names are just too good. The German version of The Simpsons is called Die Simpsons, and animation-wise, not a lot is changed from the original version, except for the German title appearing at the beginning of the opening credits.
That's German for the Bart. The.
No one who speaks German could be an evil man.
But Homer's catchphrase does get a rework so it's more relatable to German fans. Homer's signature "dope" is replaced by "nein," which means no in German. The small change was done so that Homer's classic moment would actually mean something, rather than seeming like a meaningless grunt. This isn't the only change that Germany made to the head of the Simpsons clan. In the early translated episodes, Homer is actually called Humor, so why the change? Well, it turns out that the new name was a mistake the translators made because they didn't know how to spell his real name. It was changed after a few episodes, and German audiences are back to calling him Homer, but we're officially adding humor right up there with Homero on his list of nicknames. The signature chalkboard gag during the opening credits is a Simpsons classic, but while some countries change the animation to translate the writing on screen, others just give Bart a little extra work during detention. In Spain, Italy, and Germany, the chalkboard writing isn't translated in the animation or subtitled. Instead, Bart has to read his writing out loud as he works. Bart probably doesn't appreciate the bit of extra work, but at least Spanish, German, and Italian fans get to hear the jokes straight from Bart's mouth and won't miss them if they look away, which happens way too often. Accents are usually important for an audience to relate to a character, right? While some translations worry more about what the words are, others worry about exactly how they're said. But one country in particular has way more accents than any other of the Simpsons translations mentioned on our list, and that place is Italy. Italy is a country with many dialects, so the Italian translations have to give the Simpsons characters a lot of different accents. For example, Wiggum, Lou, Nick Riviera, and Marvin Monroe talk like men from Naples. Carl has a Venice accent, and Eddie talks like someone from Bari. Snake Jailbird and Lionel Hutz speak with Roman accents. Reverend Lovejoy is a Calabrian, and Automan talks Milanese. Then there's Fat Tony, who's Sicilian.
I apologize for my tardiness.
And Willie, who's Sardinian. It might be hard for us to distinguish these accents, but for the Italian audience, they definitely help put things in perspective. If you ever check out an Italian episode of The Simpsons, see if you can spot the differences. So, what's your favorite Simpsons change? I personally like all the different versions of Doe. If you have to pick an international version of The Simpsons to watch, which would you choose? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to ScreenRant for more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.